The vast African savanna stretched endlessly under the scorching sun. The dry season firmly established. The wind swept across the golden grass, creating a landscape both majestic and harsh. Dust swirled through the air, making the atmosphere stifling and oppressive. The distant calls of birds echoed, their cries rising above the wild silence, a reminder of the beauty and danger that existed in this untamed land. This was a place where survival was an ongoing struggle, where the raw power of nature was as awe-inspiring as it was unforgiving. Ethan, a seasoned conservationist, had spent years navigating this challenging landscape. Behind the wheel of his old, dusty truck, he drove along the rugged dirt roads, his eyes constantly alert. Every day in the savannah brought new challenges: poachers, injured animals, and the delicate task of maintaining the fragile balance of nature. Ethan had seen it all, but it never became any easier. He knew the savannah like the back of his hand, yet each day held the potential for something unexpected. His dedication to preserving the wildlife and ecosystems of the region was unwavering. But the work was always demanding and fraught with danger. That afternoon, as Ethan maneuvered through the dry, dusty terrain, the radio crackled to life with an urgent message. A group of tourists, out exploring near the outskirts of the reserve, had discovered a young leopard trapped in a discarded steel pipe. The panic in the voice on the other end of the line was unmistakable. The leopard had become stuck in the pipe, its movements restricted, and it was clear that the animal was in distress. The tourists had seen the leopard struggling but were unsure of how to help. Ethan's heart sank as he processed the news. Leopards, known for their speed, agility, and elusive nature, were rarely captured. It was rare for them to be caught off guard like this. The fact that a young leopard was trapped in such a manner suggested something was very wrong. Ethan knew that leopards were not only essential to the balance of the ecosystem, but they were also vulnerable in such situations. The idea of an injured or trapped leopard in the wild was a serious concern, especially for a creature as vital as this one. Without wasting any time, Ethan slammed his foot on the gas and headed toward the location described by the tourists. The road ahead was long and winding, the dry landscape stretching out in every direction. The sun beat down relentlessly, but Ethan's focus never wavered. As he drove, he considered the best way to handle the situation. Time was critical. The longer the leopard remained trapped, the more vulnerable it would become, and the likelihood of its survival would diminish. Leopards were highly skilled predators, but even they could not escape danger if they were injured or immobilized. Ethan knew that the task ahead was going to be dangerous. He would need to act quickly and carefully to free the young leopard and ensure its survival. Every moment counted. The road seemed to stretch on forever, the heat of the day making the air shimmer. But Ethan didn't allow himself to lose focus. He had a mission to complete, one that would test not only his skills as a conservationist but also his courage. The savannah, beautiful as it was a place where danger was never far away. And in this moment, it was his job to face that danger head-on to save the life of a magnificent animal. Ethan arrived at the scene, his heart racing as he surveyed the situation before him. A young leopard was trapped in a large steel pipe, left behind from an unfinished construction project. The pipe was half buried in the earth, and the young leopard's head and two front paws protruded from the open end. Its body, however, was wedged tightly inside, immobilizing it and leaving it unable to escape. The leopard's yellow eyes were filled with pure desperation, its gaze darting frantically as it tried to wriggle free. Each attempt to free itself resulted in a low, painful growl, a sound that made Ethan's chest tighten with worry. The poor creature was clearly in agony, and the longer it struggled, the greater the risk of injury, or worse. Ethan's experience in the savannah had taught him to assess danger quickly, and his instincts told him that time was running out. The young leopard needed help immediately, or its injuries could become fatal. Ethan cautiously approached, trying to keep his presence calm and non-threatening to avoid adding to the animal's distress. But as he moved closer, a sudden shift in the landscape caught his attention. Something was watching him. Standing at a distance, partially hidden by the tall grass, was a large female leopard. Her golden coat gleamed under the sun and her eyes were sharp and focused. Ethan immediately froze, his instincts telling him that this was no ordinary sighting. The powerful and protective gaze of the adult leopard was unmistakable. The look in her eyes was one of fierce warning. Her body tense as she observed the scene. Ethan's mind raced. This was likely the mother of the young leopard. He knew that a mother leopard would be extremely protective, and any perceived threat to her cub could trigger an attack. Ethan's eyes never left the adult leopard as he cautiously evaluated his next move. He knew he could not approach too closely without risking confrontation. The mother was watching, and her protective instincts were on full alert. Any sudden movements or attempts to help the cub could provoke her. And Ethan understood that the danger of a leopard attack was very real in this situation. He had to act quickly but with caution. Despite the danger posed by the mother leopard, Ethan couldn't ignore the urgency of the situation. The young leopard was in pain, and if it wasn't freed soon, the injuries from its struggle might become life-threatening. Time was a luxury he couldn't afford. Ethan took a deep breath, making sure his movements were slow and deliberate. He carefully examined the pipe, looking for any way to loosen it or make room for the young leopard to escape. But the clock was ticking, and with each painful growl from the trapped cub, Ethan knew that if he didn't act fast, the young leopard's chances of survival would diminish. He looked once more at the mother, who had not yet moved, her eyes still fixed on him with a warning that sent a shiver down his spine. The balance of the situation was delicate, and every decision from here on out had to be made with precision and care. Ethan felt the weight of the savannah's raw, untamed power pressing down on him. This was a dangerous mission, but it was one he couldn't back away from. The young leopard's life was at stake, and he would do whatever it took to save it. Ethan stood at the edge of the scene, assessing the situation with a calm but focused mind. The sun was beginning to set, casting long shadows across the savannah, and with the fading light came an increasing urgency. The young female leopard was still trapped in the steel pipe, her movements growing more frantic by the minute. Ethan could see the fear in her eyes. She was struggling, her body twisting and wriggling in an attempt to escape. The stress of the situation was escalating, and he knew he had to act fast to prevent her from injuring herself further. But what made the situation even more dangerous was the presence of the male leopard. The male leopard, likely the young female's mate or another member of her pride, was pacing just outside of the rescue area. His eyes were locked on Ethan and the team, his muscles taut with suspicion and anger. Ethan understood that this was not just an ordinary animal. This was a powerful, territorial predator. The male leopard was likely protective of the female, and his growing agitation was a cause for concern. Ethan had seen leopards in the wild. But this was a situation that was not just about saving a life, it was about making sure they didn't provoke the male into an attack. The light was fading quickly, and the threat of other predators in the area added to the already mounting tension. Ethan knew that nighttime was when the savanna truly came alive with danger. Lions, hyenas, and other predators could take advantage of the situation if they sensed weakness or vulnerability. The clock was ticking. Ethan reached for his radio and called in the rescue team, giving them the exact coordinates and outlining the situation. He briefed his colleagues, ensuring they were fully prepared for the delicate task ahead. The team had to be swift and careful, understanding the delicate balance between saving the young female and avoiding provoking the male. They would need to use all their skills and knowledge to succeed. The necessary tools were gathered: metal cutters, crowbars, and tranquilizer guns, which would be used as a last resort if the male leopard became too aggressive. They also brought a device that could play recorded leopard growls, hoping to use the sound to distract the male while they focused on freeing the female. As Ethan and his team moved into position, they kept their distance from the male leopard, who was becoming more restless by the minute. The female leopard's situation was dire, but they had to maintain their composure. They positioned themselves around her, making sure not to startle either of the leopards while preparing to cut the metal pipe open. The tension was palpable as Ethan watched the male leopard's every movement. His eyes flickered to the female, who was now looking up at the team with a mixture of fear and trust. Ethan could feel the weight of the moment. The male's attention was still fixed on them, but they had to take the first step toward rescuing the trapped leopard. One of the team members activated the recorded growl of a leopard from a distance, hoping to draw the male's attention away just long enough for the cutting to begin. As the sound echoed across the savanna, the male leopard's head snapped toward the source, his body tensing. It was a small opening, but it was enough for the team to get to work. With each passing second, the stakes grew higher, and Ethan knew they couldn't afford any mistakes. As the team worked to free the female, the air was thick with tension, the danger of the male's protective nature adding to the already fraught situation. Every movement had to be measured, and Ethan's heart raced as he hoped the plan would succeed. Time was running out, and the window for rescuing the female leopard was closing quickly. The air was thick with tension as Ethan worked tirelessly, his hands steady despite the danger looming around him. The sound of metal being slowly cut through the air filled the otherwise quiet savanna, echoing the urgency of the situation. The young leopard, trapped inside the steel pipe, had struggled for what felt like an eternity. Ethan's heart raced as the last piece of the metal finally gave way. The pipe, once a cruel prison, was now cut open, and the cub let out a pained cry, its body wriggling free from the tight confines. For a brief moment, Ethan and the rescue team held their breath, watching as the young leopard pulled itself from the steel tube. The cub stumbled slightly as it emerged, its legs shaky, but there was a fire in its yellow eyes, determination, strength, and a will to survive. Despite the pain it had endured, the young leopard was resilient, standing tall on wobbly legs, its spirit unbroken. Ethan's eyes softened, a deep sense of relief washing over him as the animal was freed. However, just as he allowed himself to breathe a little easier, the air was pierced by a low, threatening growl. Out of the corner of his eye, Ethan spotted the adult female leopard, the cub's mother, launching herself toward them in a blur of speed. The deep growl that rumbled from her chest sent a chill down Ethan's spine. The mother was charging, her protective instincts kicking in. And the situation took a dangerous turn. There was no time to react. No time to move. The adult leopard's gaze was fixed on them. And she was heading straight for the rescue team. Ethan's heart hammered in his chest. But instead of retreating, he remained still, his gaze locked on the fast-approaching predator. He knew there was little they could do to stop her if she chose to attack. Yet, in that moment, something unexpected happened. The mother leopard didn't strike at them. Instead, she surged past the rescue team, her powerful body moving with grace and purpose. In a swift motion, she reached her cub, who was still trying to regain its balance. The mother's eyes softened, her growls quieting as she nudged her cub gently with her head, checking it over for injuries. Ethan and the team stood frozen, watching in awe as the two leopards communicated in a silent exchange. There were no snarls or aggression, only the soft contact of the mother's head against her cub's body. A deep, intimate moment that spoke volumes about the bond between them. It was a quiet, almost sacred connection, one that transcended the harshness of the savannah. The leopards, though wild and fierce, shared a tenderness that was raw and beautiful. Ethan felt a sense of respect and admiration for these creatures. There, in the heart of the African wilderness, was a moment of pure, unspoken communication between mother and cub, a reminder of the powerful ties that bind all living beings. The rescue team remained still, silently observing, as the two leopards shared this profound moment. They could feel the strength of the connection between them. And in that instant, all the tension and danger seemed to fade away. The savannah, in all its wildness, had revealed yet another side, a side of love, of survival, and of the silent language shared between creatures of the wild. The rescue team knew their mission had been successful. The young leopard was free, and the mother was there to protect it. The savannah had shown him the beauty and fragility of nature, a reminder of how, even in the face of danger, the bonds of life were stronger than anything else. A few months had passed since Ethan's daring rescue of the young leopard, and the memory of that tense moment was still fresh in his mind. Life in the savannah had returned to its usual rhythm for Ethan. But the unpredictability of the wild was never far away. One afternoon, as he tracked a wounded antelope through the tall grass, his thoughts were entirely focused on the animal's trail. He had not noticed that he had unknowingly crossed into the territory of a pride of lions. Before Ethan could react, a young male lion, its golden mane just beginning to grow in, appeared from the tall grass with incredible speed. The lion was determined to defend its territory, and Ethan, with his attention fixed on the injured antelope, was an easy target. In a flash, the lion charged at him, its powerful body moving with alarming speed. Ethan froze, his heart racing, knowing that a lion's attack was far from a fight he could win. In that split second, the world seemed to slow down. The lion's eyes locked onto Ethan, its jaws bared, preparing to pounce. But just as the lion was about to strike, something incredible happened. From the thick grass, a blur of motion emerged. A sleek, powerful figure shot out with a speed that took Ethan's breath away. It was the male leopard, the very one he had rescued months ago. The leopard acted with instinctive precision, launching itself directly at the young lion with the force of a lightning strike. In an instant, The lion found itself caught off guard. Forced to retreat. The young lion had no interest in facing this agile and determined predator. And with a quick retreat, it backed off, realizing it was outmatched. Ethan, still in shock, watched as the lion retreated into the shadows. His heart pounded in his chest. But the immediate danger had passed. The male leopard, having driven the lion away, turned its gaze back toward Ethan. The two locked eyes in a silent, profound moment that seemed to last forever. There were no words, no growls, only the shared understanding between them. The leopard had remembered him. And this was its way of showing gratitude. For a moment, Ethan was left in awe. The predator he had once saved was now saving him. Not out of obligation, but because of a bond formed in the wild, a bond that was deeper than the fleeting moments of danger. It was a moment of silent appreciation, one that spoke volumes more than words ever could. The leopard's eyes were calm but knowing, as if acknowledging the act of kindness that had been extended to it. As the leopard stood there, its body relaxed and its eyes filled with quiet intelligence. It slowly turned and disappeared back into the wild. The grasses parted, and just like that, the leopard was gone, leaving Ethan with a lingering sense of peace and gratitude. He exhaled slowly, his body still tense from the adrenaline, but now filled with a profound sense of connection to the creature that had returned the favor in such a striking way. Ethan knew that in the wild, survival was not just about taking and giving. Sometimes, it was about unspoken acts of kindness and respect that crossed the boundaries between human and animal. The leopard's silent thank you was a powerful reminder that the wild world operated on a deep, often unseen level of reciprocity. In that moment, Ethan understood that no good deed, no matter how small, ever went unnoticed in the natural world.
Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed it, please comment 1. And if you didn't, just hit like. See you in the next videos.